If investing is the first thing you do with your money, there's a very good chance you're building your future on top of a financial landmine. That's the hook, because people think starting to invest early is automatically smart. And sometimes it is. But sometimes it is one of the dumbest responsible decisions you can make. Because if your life is still financially fragile, investing too early does not make you disciplined. It makes you exposed. And exposed people do not stay invested. They panic. They interrupt the plan. They sell the future to survive the present. That is the real beginner trap, not investing. Investing before your money is ready. That sounds almost offensive in today's finance culture because everywhere you look, the message is the same. Start now. Start young. Don't wait. Get in the market. Compound early. Time in the market beats timing the market. All true and still incomplete because nobody likes talking about the more boring truth. Money has jobs. And if you give protection money a growth job too early, you don't become an investor. You become a gambler with a nice vocabulary. That is the whole video. The question is not, should I invest? The question is, which money is actually ready to invest? Because not every dollar should be trying to grow. Some dollars should be protecting you. Some should be cleaning up debt. Some should be stabilizing your life. Some should be buying you breathing room. And if you ignore that order, investing becomes fragile. And fragile investing usually ends the second real life shows up. History keeps teaching this exact lesson. In 1929, people borrowed money to buy stocks. In 2008, people treated rising home values like a permanent safety net. In 2020, the market dropped about 34% in roughly a month. And a lot of people suddenly discovered that their long-term investments were actually next month rent money. That's the mistake. Not investing. Mislabeling unstable money as long-term money. And the market is completely unforgiving when you do that because the market does not care that your car broke. It does not care that your hours got cut. It does not care that you had an emergency at the exact wrong time. If your money wasn't ready, it wasn't ready. And too many beginners learn that lesson only after they've already built the portfolio. Then life hits. Then the portfolio becomes an emergency fund. Then the long term lasts about 11 minutes. That's why most people start investing too soon. Not because they are reckless, because they are skipping the boring stage. They want growth before structure, returns before resilience, excitement before stability. And that feels smart in the beginning because investing looks like progress. Opening the account feels productive. Buying something feels advanced. You finally feel like you're doing money right. Meanwhile, your emergency fund is weak. Your credit card is still charging 24%. One bad week could wreck your whole system. And your so-called investing plan is hanging over a financial sinkhole. That is not a portfolio. That is a performance. And performances are expensive. Let's make this simple. There are usually 3 jobs money needs to do before real long-term investing can work properly. Protect, stabilize, then grow. That order matters. Protection money is your emergency fund. Its job is not to beat the market. Its job is to be there, on time, with no drama, with no panic. If your car dies, you don't want your emergency fund to be down 18% because the market had a weird month. That's not a strategy. That's bad assignment. Stability money is next. This is debt cleanup, buffer, fixed cost control, making your life less fragile. Because if you are still carrying ugly debt, especially high interest debt, a lot of the time investing is not your highest IQ move. Trying to earn maybe 8% while paying 22% or 28% is not investing. That's financial theater. It looks grown up. It sounds disciplined. But mathematically, you are swimming upstream with bricks in your backpack. And then there's growth money. This is where investing finally belongs. Money that can actually stay invested. Money that is not needed next month. Money that does not have to rescue your life the second things get weird. That is investing money. And beginners constantly confuse those buckets. They think, I've saved a few $1,000, time to invest. Maybe not. Maybe that money has a more important job first. Maybe it should stop you from going into debt the next time something breaks. Maybe it should kill toxic interest. Maybe it should give you 1 month where you are not negotiating with your bank account from the floor. That is not anti-investing. That is pro-survival. And survival comes first. Always. The reason this is so hard emotionally is because boring money work feels invisible. Nobody gets excited about a cash buffer. Nobody flexes. Just fully funded 3 months of breathing room. Nobody goes viral for paid off my credit card and reduced my fragility. But that boring work changes lives. A lot more than beginner investing with weak structure does. Because if you don't have structure, your investments do not compound. They get interrupted. That's the whole problem. And interrupted money never gets to do what people dream about. Compounding is incredibly powerful, but only if you leave it alone. That's the part beginners do not emotionally understand. They hear, start early. What they should hear is, start when the money can actually stay. Because if you start early, but keep pulling money back out, selling under stress, stopping contributions, or turning investments into emergency cash, your early start is weaker than it looks. Now imagine 2 people. Person A starts investing immediately with no real emergency fund, some credit card debt, and a financially shaky life. Person B waits a little longer, builds a cash buffer, reduces toxic debt, gets basic stability, then starts investing consistently. Which one wins? Most beginners think it's automatically person A, because person A started early. But if person A has to keep interrupting the plan, selling during chaos, or relying on debt every time life hits, that early start may be mostly cosmetic. Person B might look slower, but slow with structure beats early with fragility all the time. That's the brutal truth. Finance culture often makes people feel stupid for not investing sooner. I get it. You hear compounding examples and feel like every month you wait is some unforgivable mistake. But there is a difference between a delayed plan and a broken plan. A delayed plan can still work beautifully. A broken plan usually teaches pain first. This is why the real beginner win is not buying your first investment. It's making your life hard to break. That's the first win. Because once your life is stable, investing becomes easier. Patience becomes easier. Discipline becomes easier. Staying the course becomes easier. Why? Because the market can be volatile without your whole life becoming volatile. That's what people want. They don't just want returns. They want the ability to survive the journey. And survival is underrated. A person with an emergency fund, lower debt, manageable fixed costs, and a simple investing plan will usually outperform the person who rushed into investing while their life was still financially unstable. Not because they picked better stocks, because they were able to stay in the game. And staying in the game matters more than looking advanced in month 1. That's why most people start investing too soon. They want to feel like builders before they've actually built the floor, and floors matter a lot. If your life is one surprise away from panic, you are not behind because you haven't invested enough. You are behind because you still need structure, and structure is not failure. Structure is what makes investing real later. So what does ready to invest actually mean? It does not mean perfection. It does not mean your life has to be flawless. It means you have at least some real cash buffer. Your high interest debt is under control or aggressively being removed. Your fixed costs are not completely insane. You can leave the money alone. That last part matters most. Can you leave the money alone? If the answer is no, that money may not be ready yet. And that's okay. That is not you being late. That is you assigning the right job first. People act like waiting is always a mistake. It's not. Sometimes waiting is maturity. Sometimes waiting is the smartest thing in the room. Because when you do start, you start with cleaner structure, clearer purpose, and less chance of blowing the whole thing up the first time life gets dramatic. And yes, there is a gray area. You can build your emergency fund and still start tiny. You can stabilize while learning. You can start with small automatic contributions once the basics are moving in the right direction. This is not all or nothing. It is about priority. That's the word beginners miss. Priority. Not every financial goal deserves equal attention at the same time. Protection first, then stability, then growth. That order is not boring because people lack ambition. It's boring because it works. And that's the thing about good money decisions. They are often emotionally unsatisfying at first. Building a cash buffer feels slower than buying an ETF. Paying off ugly debt feels less exciting than starting your investing journey. Keeping money in a boring, safe place feels less impressive than watching a portfolio move up and down. But boring money that does the right job is stronger than exciting money with the wrong job. Every time. So here's the final thought. Most people don't lose with money because they never invest. They lose because they invest too early with money that still has a more urgent job. They try to grow money before they stabilize life. And then life forces them to interrupt the whole plan. So if you're wondering whether you should invest, don't just ask, is it time? Ask, is this money truly ready? Because the money that builds wealth is not the money that feels exciting to invest. It's the money you can actually leave alone. That's the difference. And that difference will save people years. Subscribe for more simple, animated finance videos.